Hello, my name is Ayla Flanagan, and for my senior honors thesis, I researched the city of Santa Clara's food system, specifically looking into its vulnerabilities. So issues of food insecurity, food waste, as well as food rescue, as the state of California just recently passed Senate Bill 1383, and it was just implemented this past year, which requires food producers and distributors in the state to recover edible food and send it to food assistance programs like food pantries. So to start, the area is, as we all know, extremely expensive to live in. And so a lot of vulnerable communities end up falling through the cracks as measures of self-sufficiency offer artificially low measures of hunger. I also did all of this research to fit in with the city's climate action plan so that my recommendations could be easily implemented. So there's that. My research questions were, who does food insecurity affect in the city of Santa Clara? Is there a spatial dimension to those who are food insecure in the city? How are low income communities defined in the city? What services are available to food insecure communities and what policies affect these communities? How can we make the city of Santa Clara's food system more robust through increasing food security? And by doing this, how can we leverage policies that reduce food waste to increase food security? A lot of research questions, but yeah. So the methods that I used to conduct this research were, I conducted interviews with 10 food system stakeholders in the area to discuss food insecurity, SB 1383, and food system resiliency. I collected and analyzed secondary data like existing reports, food pantry demographic data, and food models in other cities to then culminate them into a literature review. I utilized ArcGIS Pro to bring together diverse data types and map and spatially analyze the emergency food system in the city, and then create a visual representation of this data, which you are seeing here. Obviously, there were certain limitations as I'm a team of one, and I conducted this research over the course of like 6 to 7 months. And the interviews obviously rely heavily on self-reported data. So I coded all of my interviews and sorted them into categories. I let all of the codes come up through the interview transcripts instead of having a set list of codes that I then go into the transcripts to look for. So the codes that emerged were food insecurity and security, challenges, food waste and recovery, food assistance programs, food access and barriers, definitions for low income, policy and government programs, volunteering, gardening and farming, cultural factors, choice, resiliency and sustainability, school meals, and wants and hopes. And then I sorted all of these into 4 main categories: choice and elements of human dignity, the 3 Fs, food justice, food sovereignty, and food security, building a sustainable and equitable future, and cultural and economic relationships to food and access. So the results that I found, firstly, there's not a position in the city for food policies that creates a lack of responsibility. There is a lack of a standardized definition for low income in the area. Food assistance programs like food pantries feel as though they're missing several demographic groups, which is due to language barriers, a lack of knowledge about resources, and emotional barriers like shame. Food recovery is not the #1 priority of retailers, especially in the post-pandemic climate where it's difficult for retailers to have the staffing and mindset to prioritize this. The high rate of turnover in retail makes food recovery challenging. Second Harvest Food Bank is required to do the retail pickups under SB 1383, but they don't receive compensation for it. So that means they have to rely heavily on volunteers, and funding for this pickup infrastructure, like trucks, food tracking technology, trainings, has all come in the form of random scattered grants. School meals are vital for families, and since California passed universal meals, some schools don't have the infrastructure to cook and supply free breakfast and lunch every day. Because COVID-19 emergency allotments are ending, this gave those with CalFresh benefits the maximum dollar amount of benefits for them as an individual or for their family. These are ending, and so food pantries and food banks are experiencing a huge sustained demand that they're unsure how they can continue to meet. And then GIS analysis of the city's social vulnerability shows that none of the 3 most socially vulnerable census tracts have an emergency food distribution resource in them. So as you can see in these dark blue areas, three of these up here are far away from any food distribution location. And then this large industrial census tract, might be able to access these down here, but they're not really in the census tract. And so, yeah, I used all of this to culminate some recommendations for the city, which I won't go into too deeply as I wrote about it in the thesis, but the first one is addressing the root causes of hunger in Silicon Valley and expanding the idea of what it means to be a vulnerable community in Santa Clara. And the social vulnerability scores that were used in this GIS visual that you're seeing here, I also describe in the paper. So there's that. My second one is supporting emergency food system stakeholders. So helping coordinate grocery rescue, getting better, more sustainable funding for that, expanding outreach to raise awareness about food assistance, as several groups in the city are not utilizing food resources. So targeted outreach, like through social media, community events, and then collaborating with local businesses and gardens and things like that. So thank you so much for listening. That was my senior thesis project. Thanks.